And God saw the, I gotta scroll back up. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. See? And God saw the light that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And the light he called day, and the darkness he called night. Now, if it was good, why did he mess with it? If something's good, you just leave it alone. Right? How's that saying go? Leave good enough alone. But that's not what that word means. It doesn't mean like, thumbs up, bro. Yeah. Oh, that light, that's totally rad. No, it means complete. The light is complete. It doesn't need anything. In fact, it doesn't need darkness. So let's divide the light from the darkness, because the light doesn't need that. It's good by itself. That's why. Tob. That's a tet, vov, bet. So that's bringing together the intersection, the tav, and structure. So it's bringing things together in a structured form. That's what complete means, or good, tob. All right? Aor, we haven't talked about that yet. I'm going backwards. Aleph, vav, resh, that's power, and chief is the primary use of that. Or the head, the most important, the first. So it's the first power. Power and first. And oftentimes you'll have three-letter words that have a vav in the middle. And that is like a tent stake, and it's bringing two concepts together. And so you look at those two, and what is power and the head? The head power is light. Yeah. Or the first power. Okay, so God divides the light from the day, Yil. Why is this in Hebrew? Well, that's the word for night. Koshek is darkness. I don't get into that because there's not anything that's interesting there. But Layil, these are two shepherd staffs, and that's a work, a function. It's a picture of a hand reaching out to do something. So it's showing two shepherd staffs. What does the shepherd staff represent? Direction, like go. In fact, badal, to divide, is a house, a door, and a shepherd's staff. It's like the door opening to a house and the patriarch pointing out and saying, get out of here. Time for you to be on your own. It's like a bird kicking the baby out of the nest. It's time to fly. Go away. That's the word for divide, badal. When a house divides, one of the things in Genesis, it says a man should leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one, and that's how you spread out humanity. The same idea is in here, to divide. And then yom is a work, there's the vav again, and water. It's the work of water. Now, what's interesting is that hydrogen and oxygen are in water, right? So most of the universe is hydrogen, and a third of the mass of the universe is oxygen, and that's what water is. And most of the rest of the mass is hydrogen. So I think 3/4 of the universe is still hydrogen, but it's all hydrogen at some point, they say. And so working with hydrogen water. The wave. The work of the wave, really, if you translate that. Here's how it looks in the ancient Hebrew. The first Hebrew, that's what the mem looked like. That's really where we get our M from. It went through a few languages before it got to English, but that's why our M looks like that, because it came from the original mem. Or it's a coincidence, but this is like a three-pronged wave. You know? So that is the work of the wave. And so when it says all this was And God called the light day, darkness night. And by the way, before we get to what I'm about to say, we're talking about time here, day and night, right? These are terminologies that we're familiar with. They have deeper meanings. But the whole concept here is the beginning of time, which, light is the beginning of time. That's where, actually, in the last verse, when God moves, that's the beginning of time, because you can't have time without movement. And you can't have movement without time. Or vibration. Vibration is movement as well. But he divides it into two things. Now, the thing about time is time stops at the speed of light. Boom. And time also stops at an event horizon when gravity is so intense that you can't get out. It has only one direction. And that would be the darkness, which is gravity, which at its extreme would be where time stops. So there's only two ways time stops. Speed of light and at event horizon of a black hole. As far as we know. I mean, we haven't tested it, so it's a theory. It's not scientific yet. But that's our understanding currently. And that's identified here. The parameters of time, where time stops, is these two things here. What a coincidence, huh? Wow. I'm really reading into the text here, huh? I don't know. There's so many coincidences here. It's really hard for me to say, wow, 20 different points between science and this freaking chapter in the Bible all line up, but hey, it could just be in my imagination. So what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so day one. That's also a thing. The people I grew up with, independent fundamental Baptists and others as well, young earth creationists, are very stuck on, well, it says the first day, and a day is 24 hours. Not according to this. This says in the evening and the morning. That's 12 hours at equinox. That's not 24 hours. So if you're going to take it literally, a day is 12 hours. Then you ask yourself, well, did God only work in a 12-hour period? Did he go to sleep at night for 12 hours? No, we're getting ridiculous. This is metaphorical. And day one represents the work of the wave that is unified. One. Let me see, what is the word for Yom Akid? Let's see what the word Akid, which is one, is in Hebrew. Okay, that's not a T, that's a Dalet. It should be more like that. Okay, so we have the Aleph, which is power. Is that a Chet, which is a inner space, and a door. It's this too far. Let me see if I could bring it up there. So the power of the inner chamber door. Power, inner chamber, door. What is the inner chamber? That's what all this is starting from, is the singularity. And this is the door that is beginning of power and the end, really, of the inner chamber. So power, which is the light, God's movement, works on the inner chamber, which is the Tehom, in verse 2, which is the singularity, or the black hole, if you want to call it that. That leads to the door that opens up the portal. You could call that a portal. That's what a door is, to our current reality. So all there in the Hebrew, and just amazing. So if we separate these things, say light forces, what are the light forces? That is the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, and electromagnetism. And then if you separate that from gravity, and I would propose also dark energy, which would be these two, these two directionals. This would be an inward direction and an outer direction. But it originally was inward, everything was singular, and then this all leads to the rakia, which is the firmament, which is the expanse. So that expanse is dark energy, which comes in the next verse, verse 7, which separates everything, which creates space. But that happens when you separate these forces of nature. Now, there's some debate on whether gravity is a force. I think it is. But, more qualified people on YouTube have said it isn't, and I don't understand what that means. But I don't think they understand gravity. I think that's going to be figured out later, that gravity and dark energy are part of the same thing, and it's a phenomenon in space. But there might even be three. Since there's three forces of light, we would assume there'd probably be three forces of darkness, and that might be the dark matter phenomenon, but we'll see what happens. There's a recent episode I heard where they said that they think that they can account for some of the dark matter phenomenon by these dwarf stars that are somewhere in between planets and stars. I didn't get enough detail as to if that debunks the whole dark matter, but if you have a energy that is pushing things away and an energy that is, or whatever it's called, a directional gravity that is pulling things together, but at the middle somewhere there's this weird phenomenon where things don't make sense called dark matter. It all makes sense to me, but I'm totally underqualified to really give you scientific or theoretical math or anything on that. But all I do know is if you separate these, you get space. If you unify these, like in a black hole, where all the forces of nature collapse and they get consolidated, singularity, and there's no space in there. It just collapses. That's all there in verses 5, 6, and 7. 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yom Akkad, day 1. All right? Wow, that one was a long one. I guess it got more material in there. And we'll get into day 2. What is 2? 2 represents separation. And we already had the separation of light and dark, but that is the foundation of the separation of everything in a three-dimensional space, which is space, the heaven, Shemayim, firmament, Rakia, all that stuff. Boy, I'm getting worked up. All right, hope you enjoyed this. Put any questions you might have below, and or comments or opinions or whatever, I'm more interested in the questions, but hope to see you in the comments. Later. Subscribe for more. Bye.